Have you ever thought that a piece of advice from like 3,000 years ago could have anything to say about your life right now? Well, it turns out it has everything to do with one of the most stressful parts of modern life. Let's dive in.
It sounds like a setup for a joke, right? But you're about to see how an ancient king's thoughts on justice connect directly to those small, high-pressure decisions we all have to make, especially when we're at work.
And to really see how this all connects, we're going to start with a little story. A story that I think for a lot of us is going to feel, well, a little uncomfortably familiar.
Come on, we've all been there. You are totally up against a wall. A deadline is breathing down your neck, and then this tiny little shortcut appears. It looks so simple, so harmless. But is it really?
So, picture this. An employee is racing against the clock. They're trying to get their travel expenses finalized. Everything's there, except for one teeny tiny taxi receipt. The pressure is on, and that little voice in their head pipes up, "You know what? It's just a few dollars. I'll just use a similar one. Nobody's ever going to notice. Problem solved."
And you know what? In that moment, it actually works. The report is in. The deadline is met. Whew! There's this huge wave of relief. That immediate reward, just being done with it, feels fantastic. The short-term problem, it's gone.
But then, maybe a few weeks later, that email lands in the inbox, the one you never want to see. Subject line, random audit. And all of a sudden, that tiny little discrepancy gets flagged. The location on the receipt they submitted, it doesn't match the travel logs. And that small lie, well, it's not so small anymore. And this is where you see the real cost. It just spirals. That first little lie forces them to come up with more complicated explanations, which only digs the hole deeper. The trust with their manager, totally damaged. They get pulled from a big project. And maybe worst of all, the ripple effect hits the entire team. Now everyone is stuck with a much stricter, more annoying approval process. That tiny shortcut created a massive, system-wide headache.
So this whole downward spiral, from one little shortcut to this huge mess, it feels like such a modern problem, right? But what if I told you that this exact dynamic was perfectly described thousands of years ago?
So this is the proverb at the very heart of what we're talking about today. And at first glance, yeah, it sounds a little intense. But the key to unlocking the whole thing is in one very specific, very powerful word: winnows. Winnowing is this amazing farming metaphor. Just imagine a farmer tossing harvested grain up into the air. The wind comes along and blows away all the light, useless bits, the chaff. But the heavy, valuable grain falls right back down to the ground, safe and sound. So the king's gaze isn't about being suspicious all the time. It's about having a process, a fair system that naturally separates the good stuff from the bad. And here's the crucial point. This proverb isn't really advice for the king. It's actually a warning for everybody else. It's saying that in any well-run system, whether it's an ancient kingdom or a modern company, there are review processes. And just like winnowing, those processes are designed to eventually find the chaff, the things that just don't belong, the little lie, the fudged number, the shortcut.
Okay, so if we know deep down that taking shortcuts can lead to total disaster, why are they still so darn tempting? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is literally hardwired into our brains.
Psychologists have a fancy term for it, temporal discounting. But it's a pretty simple idea. Our brains are just awful at valuing the future. A reward right now? Oh, that feels amazing, super valuable. The potential for a much bigger punishment way down the road? Our brain just kind of discounts it. It feels fuzzy, less real.
So this is basically what that choice looks like inside your head. The immediate relief of just getting that expense report done, that's that huge, towering bar on the left. It feels massive. But the potential future consequence of getting caught, that's the tiny little bar on the right. It just feels small and abstract and so far away. Our brain is wired to listen to the big one.
You can think of it like a battle raging between two different parts of your brain. You've got this ancient, impulsive part, your brain's reward center, and it's just screaming, "Do it now, get the relief." And then you've got the more modern, rational part, your brain's planning center, that's calmly trying to say, "Hey, hold on a sec, let's think about the long-term consequences here." And when we're stressed, the shouting part almost always wins.
So, how do we give our rational brain a fighting chance? I mean, how do we actually overcome this incredibly powerful short-term bias? Well, luckily, there's a simple, science-backed technique you can use. It's called an if-then plan, and it is shockingly simple. Here's how it goes. If you feel that temptation, that urge to take a shortcut, then you just stop. pause for 10 seconds. And in that pause, you write down the actual, honest truth in one sentence. For our employee, that would literally just be, I lost the receipt for the taxi ride. That's it.
So why is this tiny little trick so powerful? Well, first, that 10-second pause is just enough time to quiet down that do it now alarm that's blaring in your brain. Second, by writing it down, you force yourself to just look at the simple, honest truth. And most importantly, that simple action brings your rational, long-term planning brain, your prefrontal cortex, back online, letting it do its job and properly weigh the consequences.
Okay, before we wrap this up, there is a really, really important warning that comes with this ancient proverb. Because it's a powerful idea for sure, but it can be so easily misinterpreted and, frankly, misused.
The big danger here is the misinterpretation you see on the left. This proverb is not a license for managers and leaders to create a culture of fear and constant suspicion. No way. The real wisdom, the correct interpretation, is a call for leaders to build better systems, fair, transparent, and predictable processes that act like that winnowing wind, naturally sorting things out. The goal is never a workplace police state. It's about creating an environment of accountability where everybody knows the rules of the game and trusts that the review process is fair. Because when you have that, people are so much more likely to just choose the honest path from the very beginning because the system itself encourages it.
So, it really all comes back to this. Ancient wisdom tells us that good systems eventually find the truth. Modern science shows us the battle that's raging inside our own minds. So the next time that deadline is looming and that tempting little shortcut appears, the only question that really matters is, which part of your brain are you going to listen to?